Hello guys, today we'll be covering a 2021 Chinese fantasy comedy film called Little Canned Men. Lucy is the smartest student in her class, and she has a very mischievous and playful twin brother named Pipaloo. Both are in their final year at primary school. One day their teacher, Ms. Zhu, announces their grades and arranges the seating accordingly. Students with higher grades are seated in front, and those with lower grades are at the back. Later, Ms. Zhu declares that the student with the highest grade this term will receive the City Achievement Award, which guarantees admission to the top junior high school. At that moment, we see Lucy's main rival, her jealous deskmate named Zhao Man. Back home, Lucy's parents are delighted to hear about the forthcoming City Achievement Award. It appears that their parents focused most of their energy and attention on Lucy because of her better grades. When Lucy reveals that Pipaloo had been punished by the teacher earlier that day, their mother criticizes him, asking him why he can't be more like his sister. A while later, their father sets the canned meat on the dining table. When Pipaloo reaches for the can to open it, his mother, who's upset with him, hands the can to Lucy instead. Next, Lucy goes to her room to open the can, but suddenly she takes a step back as the can emits a radiant glow. 5 tiny people emerge out of the can and ask about Lucy's identity. She's taken aback to see such tiny people who can speak. Then she introduces herself and asks where they're from, to which they reply that they've always lived in the can. Meanwhile, when her mother calls her, she decides to show the tiny people to her. However, Lucy recalls how her mother used to throw away their pets in the past, so she hides the tiny people and lies that the can was empty. Later, when Lucy gets back to her room, she measures the tiny people from the can. Then she creates outfits for them and gives them names that are a reflection of their personalities and interests. She names the first minion Artist, since she aspires to be an artist. Lucy calls the other one John because he wants to be a diplomat. The other is called Doctor because he enjoys learning and studying. She calls the fourth one Lieutenant because he wants to protect people. Finally, the last one wants to perform, so Lucy gives her the name Singer. She even constructs a dollhouse for them to live in. Before going to sleep, Doctor states his desire to learn more and requests to attend school with her, to which Lucy gladly agrees. The next day, Lucy hides Doctor in her hair and goes to school, where she's approached by Liang and Zhao Man. Since Pipaloo was absent from class, Zhao Man asks her about his whereabouts. Liang tries to cover for Pipaloo, but Lucy responds that he skipped the class. Since Zhao Man is the teacher's snitch, she goes on to complain to her teacher about this. Seeing this, Liang asks Lucy why she would tattle on her own brother. As he tries to get aggressive by grabbing her arm, the doctor pulls the strings from his pants, causing them to fall. And upon seeing this, all the other kids laugh at him. In the meantime, Pipaloo enters Lucy's room with his dog, Holmes. The moment Holmes notices the tiny people, he begins to bark. He starts violently shaking the dollhouse, causing the tiny people to start falling in all different directions. Soon after, the lieutenant grabs his pin and pricks the dog, forcing him to release the house. When Pipaloo notices blood on Holmes, he rushes to get some medicine. Meanwhile, his mother shows up and overhears the dog barking. Pipaloo has been keeping Holmes hidden from his mother, so when she decides to investigate the sound, he tries to stop her. On the other hand, Singer convinces others to help Holmes in escaping. As John and the artist open the window, the lieutenant climbs onto Holmes's back and they quickly make their escape. Later that night, Lucy finds out about the incident, along with the fact that the lieutenant is missing. Now, to find the lieutenant, she tries to sneak out the window with tiny people. But when Pipaloo discovers them, Lucy is compelled to tell him everything. Hearing the entire story, Pipaloo thanks the tiny people for helping Holmes escape. He leads them to Holmes's location, where they discover the lieutenant with him. Before leaving, Lucy reveals that their mother has agreed to let him keep Holmes if Pipaloo achieves a 90% on the exam. Since Pipaloo is a poor student and cannot achieve such high marks, the doctor decides to help him. Next, the doctor helps Pipaloo with all of his answers. On the other hand, Lucy nods off in the middle of the test, and as a result, she receives low grades. She ends up being berated by her mother for risking the City Achievement Awards. Meanwhile, Pipaloo is forced to retake the exam by Mrs. Zhu because she does not believe that he can get a perfect score. However, he's once again able to solve every question with the help of the doctor. Now, Pipaloo is praised as one of the best students at the school, and his parents also pay more attention to him, ignoring Lucy. Next, Lucy is upset and sitting in the rain when her classmate Wang Ziyu approaches her. She reassures her that one exam is insignificant and that she'll perform better on future tests. Then Wang gives her a sketch she made of Lucy holding a trophy to make her feel better. Later that night, Lucy shows the sketch to the artist, who says that Wang Ziyu is a talented artist. She reveals that Ms. Zhu took Wang Ziyu's painting supplies because of her poor academic performance. The tiny people believe this to be unfair and plan to break into Ms. Zhu's office to steal the painting kit as a retaliation. The little people sneak into Ms. Zhu's office the next day, where they start looking for painting supplies. When they locate the painting kit, they carefully take it out of the room. All of them manage to escape before Ms. Zhu shows up, but the artist is left behind. Fortunately, another teacher calls Ms. Zhu, and the artist also succeeds in escaping. Later, Lucy gives the painting kit to Wang Ziyu and urges her to take part in the upcoming art festival. Feeling overjoyed, Wang Ziyu agrees and starts working with the tiny artist. Next, we see the delegates from UNESCO arrive on the day of the art festival. However, the principal has forbidden students with low grades from entering the event. But Lucy is in no mood to stand back. She storms onto the stage while holding the painting made by her friend Wang. She impresses the guests by conversing with them in various languages with John's help. And after that, Lucy displays a painting by Wang Ziyu, urging thunderous applause from everyone. In the next scene, Lucy is seen sweeping the floor as a punishment for what happened at the art festival. Meanwhile, other students with low grades also join in to help her. The principal then declares that any student who receives less than 90% is not permitted to participate in any activities. Upon hearing this absurd claim, the tiny people decide to assist all the struggling students. Next, Lucy tells her friends about the tiny people and comes up with a plan to help the students. She plans to finish the exam first with the help of the doctor, after which the artist and singer will make copies of the answers. And that is when John and the lieutenant step in and distribute them to the other students. For a moment, Lucy's plans are ruined when Ms. Zhu enters the classroom and orders everyone to rearrange the seats. As they're about to give up, Pipaloo gestures towards the ceiling, urging the tiny people to come up with a new plan. After finishing her exams, Lucy asks the little people to copy her answers immediately. They then climb up to the ceilings and distribute the answers to all the students. Naturally, the students celebrate this moment as they all receive the perfect score. Next, Lucy and her friends are called before Ms. Zhu, who berates them for cheating. It turns out that Xiao Man found the small answer papers and told the teacher about them. When the principal asks who wrote the answers, Lucy stands up and takes the blame. Shortly after, her parents are called to the school and then informed of her actions. When her mother scolds her, Lucy tells her that she had to do it because this school discriminates against students based on their grades. Hearing this, the principal demands that her parents find a new school. But Lucy's father requests her to forgive his daughter one last time. The principal eventually agrees, but conditions that Lucy is no longer allowed to speak with her friends during school hours. Later, when Lucy gets back from school, the tiny people tell her that the weak students need her help studying for their final exams because the students who previously cheated must achieve a 90% score or they'll be expelled. Hearing this, Lucy gets angry and says that if she won't study and get perfect grades, she'll also get expelled. She further says that before the arrival of the tiny people, she was a really good student and her parents were very proud of her. Hearing this, the tiny people become upset and soon they leave Lucy's bedroom with all of their possessions. Meanwhile, Pipaloo arrives at Holmes's place, where tiny people are currently living. The doctor advises Pipaloo to assemble weak students so they can start a study group. Following the plan, the students begin studying individually and in groups to achieve high grades. In the following scene, the lieutenant reminds the other people where they came from. Realizing that this is not their world, they get ready to leave. All of a sudden, Xiao Man captures them and demands that they help her with her studies, but the tiny people refuse. The next day, Pipaloo informs Lucy that the tiny people have disappeared and asks her to help him look for them. But Lucy stops him by explaining that since the exam is more essential, he must attend to it first. On the other hand, Xiao Man puts the tiny people in a jar and leaves them in a storeroom. They eventually manage to escape the jar after a long struggle, but encounter a rat who tries to attack them. In the exam room, Lucy sets down her pencil and tries to leave the room. Ms. Zhu tries to stop her by warning her that she'll be expelled, but Lucy walks out anyway. Meanwhile, the tiny people are having a tough time battling the rat, while Lucy is frantically running around the school in search of them. Back in the storeroom, the jar is pushed off the table during the fight, and Lucy hears it. She immediately rushes over to the room and reunites with her friends, apologizing to them in tears. When Xiao Man returns to the storeroom, she discovers that the tiny people have gone. She turns on the light so she can see better, but it sparks the socket. Eventually, a fire breaks out, and the students and teachers are told to leave the building as soon as possible. While other teachers try to bring the water, Ms. Zhu tries to take the students outside. Meanwhile, a fire obstructs Lucy and her other friends as they try to escape. And with no other choice, they all head upstairs, where Lucy encounters Xiao Man, who's crying after hurting her leg. Then, as the group moves towards the roof, Lucy helps her rival as well. In the following scene, the students are on the rooftop, all pleading for help. The teachers try to put out the fire with water, but it appears hopeless. All of a sudden, the tiny people arrive in Pipilu's helicopter and deliver the rope to the students. The teachers hold on to one end of the rope while the students tie the other end to the metal handle. Then the students slide down the rope one at a time while using their uniforms. However, the rope starts to catch fire during Lucy's turn. In order to save her, the lieutenant jumps from the helicopter and lands on the rope. When Lucy sees this, she screams and sobs, realizing the lieutenant's sacrifice to save her life. After the incident, an injured lieutenant is taken urgently to the hospital. According to the doctor, he needs Rh-negative blood in order to survive. As they desperately try to find the donor, Ms. Zhu reveals that her blood type is Rh-negative, and she'll donate some to the lieutenant. Meanwhile, Lucy's parents realize that grades are not everything, and there are more important things in life, such as love and kindness. Shortly after, the lieutenant emerges from the operating room, and to everyone's relief, he made it safe and sound. Next, we see Lucy receiving the City Achievement Award. She delivers a brief speech in which she urges the students to boldly pursue their dreams, no matter what happens. Furthermore, Lucy adds that no one in this world is perfect, and everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Hearing this moving speech from a student, everyone in the crowd applauds in unison. At last, the tiny people are now bidding their last goodbyes and are returning to their world. As the movie comes to an end, the artist throws a sketch of Lucy with the tiny people.